Hi guys, I'm a mom, I have a full-time job. As I get older, I realize that time is the most expensive currency in the world. I just wanted the time to be with my family, travel, really experience life. I feel like we get so caught up in the rat race, we don't really realize how fast time is slipping by. It's nearly impossible to build wealth with just your profession alone. Like, to create wealth, you really need to build a business. A little over 6 months, I've already scaled it to six figures, 150 to 175 in sales. I don't know where that puts me in line with somebody else that's been doing it for 6 months, but I can tell you it's a whole hell of a lot further than where I was 6 months ago.
Tell me a little bit about what the results have been business-wise in the last, 60 days.
I'm on track for 30,000 plus.
I remember you had some spectacular days. Is that where you pretty much ran out of inventory when you hit that $7,000? Yeah. 7,000 in a day is quite a lot. And then you've probably had a few days where you were close to 5, and you've probably trended 1 to 2,000 ever since you were out, right?
Precisely. That's precisely what's going on. I looked into this as a business and I thought this is something that I could do, but I didn't know how to do it. I knew figuring it out on my own wasn't an option. It would have just sucked up more time trying to figure out the right steps and things to really get the ball rolling. So to me, it was finding somebody that's done it themselves and done it very well and became very successful at it. And I wanted to have a mentor like that in my life to kind of guide me through the process. So really upsetting to not be able to explore what the potential of this business is without having found Pedro, his course, and all the knowledge that he has. You guys are all incredibly lucky to have found Pedro the same way I did. And I do think he is going to be a source of success for you guys, especially for the new ones starting out. Thanks for letting me talk. I hope that I can provide some value to you. I listened to the call from last week, and it's definitely a different perspective coming from me and being so green and not having like really any background to start in the beginning. So I'm really building from ground zero. And I know there's a lot of you on the call that are super new as well. So I hope I'll have some words of wisdom. But you're definitely not alone on the journey. And maybe in 6 months, Pedro will be having you talk to. But a little bit about me. I am from Omaha, Nebraska. I live currently in Chicago, Illinois, where I've been for the last 12 years. I do have a business degree background. And then my day to day, I work for a major medical device company. That's kind of where I come from. It's my hope, and it's probably the hope of a lot of you guys as well, to eventually get away from the 9 to 5 and maybe just grow your Amazon business. I can't imagine why anybody would want a side business when successful people like Pedro can turn it into what it is for himself. So that's my dream. That's my goal. That's the trajectory, the path that I'm on. And in a little over, well, let's say 6 months, I've already scaled it to six figures. So I don't know where that puts me in line with somebody else that's been doing it for 6 months. But I can tell you it's a whole hell of a lot further than where I was 6 months ago. So
Just to get this straight, you did this Amazon thing while working a full-time job, correct?
I'm doing it now, living it now. Yes.
All right. And the other thing is, like, I think you have a baby, right? So
I
like
do.
you're doing this. So it's quite a lot to be doing all of these things at once. So congratulations on that. That just speaks volumes to like your ability to focus and just get this done. Can you tell me what the 3 main problems that you had before working with the reseller engine and working with us and kind of going through our frameworks?
Yeah. So, number one, lack of knowledge. I looked into this as a business and I thought this is something that I could do, but I didn't know how to do it. I knew figuring it out on my own wasn't an option. So, to me, it was finding somebody that's done it themselves and done it very well and became very successful at it. And I wanted to have a mentor like that in my life to kind of guide me through the process. So, not exactly sure how I found you, Pedro. Maybe your Instagram ads or maybe just a Google search, but found Pedro, decided it was a good fit, and he's been my mentor since. Secondly, lack of time. As Pedro just mentioned, I am a mom, I have a full time job, and then I'm trying to do Amazon on the side. We don't have any family here, so it's not like I can, push her off to the in laws or the relatives or anything like that. So lack of time was definitely a barrier. And then for me, sourcing, and this is probably going to be an answer that if you asked anybody what an issue is sourcing. So those are things that I really wanted to focus on going into working with Pedro.
So what was the impact of those problems? Like if nothing had changed, how would that have impacted your business?
I wouldn't have a business. I
Okay.
wouldn't have, I don't think I would have been successful on my own trying to figure that out. It would have just sucked up more time trying to figure out the right steps, movements, and things to really get the ball rolling. And I wouldn't have had time to properly source, which does take time. So, um, but I knew that going into that, I knew that I needed to enlist the help of somebody that had done this before me. So you guys are all incredibly lucky to have found Pedro the same way I did. And I do think he is going to be a source of success for you guys for sure, especially for the new ones starting on the right path with my.
Yeah, like what was the biggest thing you learned essentially? Like if you were to think of this is really broken up into three frameworks, right? You got operations, you've got the sourcing, and you got scaling,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then of course, like that's all kind of supported with, if you have a question, it gets answered and whatnot. But what's the biggest thing that you've learned about running an Amazon business from us?
So the biggest thing I've learned far and between is that you need to have products to sell. So sourcing is a huge part of it. You have to have inventory to sell. If you're not having inventory, you're not making sales. And if you're not spending, you're not making sales. So anybody that's hesitant to take a risk is probably not going to do super well, in my opinion, in this business. There's been a lot of studies that show that financially successful people are risk takers. And I think that you really need to get good at sourcing and you really need to get good at spending if you're going to make it in this Amazon world.
So, in terms of you being able to feel confident about what to buy,
Mm-hmm.
what have you taken away from the lessons in the program?
I think just learning what extensions work best, getting really good at reading a Keep a chart. There's not a single day that I don't read a Keep a chart. There's not a single day that I'm not looking for hacks and YouTube videos and looking back on your videos you've recorded on Keep. I think it's super important to be able to know how to utilize the extensions properly to make those business buying decisions. Definitely one of them.
Okay. What about scaling? Like, what have you learned about that?
Scaling, like I just said, like you need to have inventory. You need to be able to source that inventory. You're not going to be able to scale this business. I think you said in one of your videos, if you want to sell $1 million, you need to buy $400,000 worth of inventory. I don't think people really realize that, and that's why. And we didn't actually talk about this part of how I run the business, but I do solely wholesaling. I don't even mess with retail arbitrage or online arbitrage, not because I don't want to, but because I saw it in my mind as an opportunity to scale faster. In wholesale, that could be a, a bad idea or a bad notion in my mind, but that's kind of where I went in that direction because I wanted to be able to buy in large quantities. I wanted to be able to have a lot of inventory and I wanted to be able to have a lot of sell through. Kind of made it my mission to become really successful at the wholesale part of it. And I think that once you tackle that, you can pretty much tackle any aspect of selling. But that was my reason for going into wholesale. I think there's a ton of opportunity, and there's just a lot of opportunity to buy in such large bulk that there's even sometimes at a discount on
Yeah.
buying a
I
large.
remember when you started and you told me you were going that way, and I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I'll take a look at some of your potential purchases because I was a little concerned, right? Because when you go out and you buy hundreds of anything,
Yep.
one mistake is very costly. And I remember particularly there was one that you sent to us, and I looked at it and I'm like, I don't know, I got a bad feeling about this one, and then it turned out to be a dud, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and unfortunately, you can't win without losing, Pedro.
that's a
But
fact.
it's true. You can't win without losing, and each loss it has been an immense lesson to learn. So I was eager. I was ready to start spending. I was ready to start getting stuff selling, and maybe that wasn't the best approach, but it was definitely me demonstrating my ability to be a risk taker.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is when the fear of losing kind of overshadows the excitement of winning, that's when people tend to play it safe. And I think that's when you see your Amazon business not going in the direction that you want it to go. So I've definitely made some costly mistakes, and I can see where had I just maybe did an OA purchase of 10 units, it wouldn't have gone that way.
Yeah.
I'm definitely winning more than I'm losing, and like I said, I'm learning along the way. So, um, yeah, I'm just going to keep going that route and see where it takes me.
So tell me a little bit about what the results have been business wise in the last, I don't know, 60 days.
So when Pedro tells you guys, you new ones, to prepare for Q4, get your shit in before September for sure, because I definitely ran out and didn't prepare fully. Coincidentally, it coincides with my biggest quarter of my sales career on my business or my corporate side. So kind of just got caught up in that. I don't think I was fully prepared for that. With that being said, did have a very nice Q4, the best, the best couple months that I've had since I started. December, I'm on track for, if I continue to sell like the past week, I'm on track for 30,000 plus in December. Um, and over the last 6 months, probably when it's all said and done, maybe 150 to 175 in sales.
Okay.
So, like I
So
said, I don't know.
I remember you had some spectacular days. Is that where you pretty much ran out of inventory when you hit
Yeah,
that $7,000? Yeah,
yeah,
7,000 in a day is quite a lot. And then you probably had a few days where you were close to five, and you've probably trended 1 to 2,000 and ever since
yep,
you ran out, right?
precisely. That's
Yeah,
precisely what's going on. I always say that the there's highs and lows with Amazon. The lows are so damn low when something doesn't go your way. I mean, it sucks. Like I've lost, but the highs feel 10 times better. I'll take it. I'll take that over, any day. So
yeah,
it really comes down to how well you're able to mitigate risk. And I think Pedro covers a lot of really good points in his course on how to mitigate risk. But at the end of the day, it's really going to come down to what type of risk taker you are, period, and how much you're willing to spend to get that inventory out and get that money,
yeah,
and then I think if I could say one more other thing about that is you've probably all heard that your network is your net worth, right? So just be mindful of who you're bringing into your network. Pedro obviously is a game changer when it comes to having somebody in your network. Make sure you've got the right platform, the right working environment, a working computer, VAs that are going to help you, make those relationships with the suppliers, make reach out to people in our group. So yeah, make sure that you're hanging out with the right people to be conducive for success too.
See, the nice thing about being in this group is that you don't need to know everything, right? Because you're living through the experience of a bunch of different people. So you can always just ask and one of us will answer it. Like I've been through a lot in the Amazon world. Like some stuff has just been like, ugh.
This
So
dude has an answer for everything. I don't know how he knows everything, but he knows everything. You,
oh,
yeah,
I know quite a bit.
yeah.
I'm not gonna say I know everything. When I don't know something, I know who to ask. But that's part of the network. Right. So what kind of difficulties have you had in the last 6 months? Maybe some lessons for us to learn.
There's been a couple of times where like I'll read the Keepa chart and it only goes back so far, right? Like you can only see so much data. You can only analyze so much data. So sometimes I think I'm making a decision based on analytics that is a sound decision and that the product I'm going to buy is, very stable and nothing's going to happen. So
Yeah.
that's been really frustrating. Um, Nothing else.
Thank you so much, Sandy, for sharing your experience with the team. I know everyone was super happy to hear it, and just learn from another member because there's only so much that I can say, right? It's always good for somebody from the group to tell them like how well this can work if you just focus on it. Sound fair?
Sounds good. Thanks. And feel free to reach out to me. If I don't respond right away, I promise I'm not ignoring you. I just have a lot going on and I will get back to you. But I'm happy to help any way I can.